Has the White House been involved in those negotiations, and will you support that deal?
Yes, we have been involved, and this is a short-term deal because we think ultimately block grants going to the states is going to be the answer. That's a very good solution. While I commend the bipartisan work done by Senators Alexander and Murray, and I do commend it, I continue to believe Congress must find a solution to the Obamacare mess instead of providing bailouts to insurance companies. If something can happen, that's fine, but I won't do anything to enrich the insurance companies.
Okay, so we're trying to figure out exactly where President Trump, the administration are on the Lamar Alexander, Patty Murray bill that was seen as a temporary fix to Obamacare, while a bigger fix, a repeal and replace, is still being worked on. The president tweeting today, "I am supportive of Lamar as a person and also of the process, but I can never support bailing out insurance companies who have made a fortune with ObamaCare." With that, let's bring in our panel. Steve Hilton is former advisor to British Prime Minister David Cameron and host of The Next Revolution here on Fox News Channel. A.B. Stoddard, associate editor at Real Clear Politics and host of No Labels Radio on Sirius XM. And Byron York, chief political correspondent of Washington Examiner. You just have one title. It's very simple.
That's me.
Byron, is there an evolution here? Do you think he felt pushback from conservatives? What do you think happened?
Both of those things. I think he found out more of what was in this Murray-Alexander agreement, and it got a very bad reaction from a lot of conservatives, policy wonks, and others. And also, it was pretty clear last night. One of those sound bites you played was from the speech he gave to the Heritage Foundation last night, and he made it very clear that he wasn't going to go with any sort of bailout. So I think he just spoke off the cuff yesterday when he said he supported this, and now he simply commends the two for making this effort.
All right, here is Senator Alexander on the compromise leading up to what he says are conservative victories.
This is what we need to do in the meantime, and it gives us a few steps toward what we most want, which are more options for the states to give people choices of insurance at lower costs. I mean, there are more victories for conservatives in the Alexander Murray compromise than we've had in 8 years of arguing about Obamacare.
But a guy who likes compromise sometimes, Speaker Paul Ryan, through a spokesperson, says the Speaker does not see anything that changes his view that the Senate should keep its focus on repeal and replace of Obamacare. So it seems, AB, that we are back to square one.
Yeah. Actually, the president did lead Senator Alexander on and talked to him over the weekend. I'm sure you've all read the quote. He said, "I don't want those people to suffer." Lamar Alexander felt that he could come out and actually say that out loud. Lamar Alexander doesn't give a lot of interviews, doesn't talk to the press very much. He was encouraged to find a way to not have Fox News go into a county in April of 2018 that Trump won, where people say, my whole life took a bad turn in November of 2017 after those CSR payments were cut. He knew exactly what this was going to do. I was told last week he was in a meeting with a foreign policy national security official at the White House, spent the entire meeting trying to drive the conversation back to a health care deal. He wants this behind him. But he had pressure from his crowd last night. He had pressure from Mark Meadows of the Freedom Caucus, actually spoke pretty positively about this deal, and he backed off. They don't have the votes for repeal. The Republican Party of 2017, who are seated in Congress, are not going to repeal this law. So I thought that his opening gambit was good yesterday, which was, let's do this, and then we'll get to our own thing later on. But he's blowing up the process. The House Problem Solvers Caucus that came up with this first plan, which was the predicate for the Murray-Alexander thing, has a few more things in it that Republicans would like, including a medical device tax repeal and some other things.
Flexibility for states.
Right. There's a little more there that could happen, but not if Paul Ryan and the leaders are saying, let's go back to repeal,
right,
which they all know is an illusion.
They may not even bring up this bill. I mean, it's the leadership's decision whether they bring it up or not. Let's just talk broadly, Steve, about governing and working with lawmakers and an executive, and the trust level of kind of the yin and yang of you have to believe that you're going to be backed up at some point to go out on a limb to push something.
Yes, I think that's right. And I think that there's also a really big question here of strategy that isn't being handled right. I've said many times here with you, Brett, that the really big thing that the president was elected to do was to get the economy moving, to get jobs and incomes, and that is the thing that he seems to understand the best. We're going to talk about it later, I know. All of this is a diversion from the big thing that he needs to do. Every time they go into it, they seem to get bogged down in it. You're right that they don't have the votes. That's why I was encouraged to see that there may be exactly as you were saying, I completely agree. This felt encouraging, felt like he was learning the ropes a bit in terms of working with others, giving them the encouragement. But now it feels like, again, a step back. It's just not, and all of it is wasting time that could be, and energy that really should be focused on the economic.
We should point out also that Lindsey Graham and others have said even if the Cassidy-Graham bill was passed, it would still take a couple of years to be implemented to do these block grants to states for that repeal and replace version.
And that was just a step for the Senate. I mean, the House had passed a bill, and then the Cassidy-Graham bill was not going to be anything like it, so we were still going to be a long way away. But I think for Republicans, I think you just have to remember it's taking a while to soak in about how catastrophic this Obamacare failure was. The reason there's all this tension about tax reform right now is the basis of that is, well, we screwed up Obamacare, and if we mess up on taxes, this will be a total disaster and we'll all lose our job next year. So this is not something that's gone away. And what the president did with this order to cut off these CSR subsidies is put the pressure on Congress to actually do something, and they're feeling it, and that's why we had the Murray-Alexander thing.
I mean, we've talked about the constitutionality question about the subsidy payments, and Congress had to appropriate all of that. I do want to turn to the other thing that got a lot of attention today, and it seems like every day there's something that is the shiny thing that gets our attention, but this is about the condolence calls.
I'm not trying to prove anything with the president, so the president evidently is lying, because what I said is true. I have no reason to lie on the president of the United States with a dead soldier in my community.
Didn't say what that congresswoman said, didn't say it at all. She knows it, and she now is not saying it. I did not say what she said, and I'd like her to make the statement again, because I did not say what she said.
Are there recordings of his phone call with Maisha Johnson?
No, but there were several people in the room from the administration that were on the call, including the Chief of Staff, General John Kelly.
This is a call to the widow of someone who died, a soldier who died in Niger, and now you have all these news organizations going after all of these Gold Star families who did or did not get calls or letters from the president. The Associated Press, AP, found relatives of 4 soldiers who died overseas during Trump's presidency who said they never received calls from him. Relatives of 2 also confirmed they did not get letters after her Army son died in an armored vehicle rollover in Syria in May. Sheila Murphy says she got no call or letter from President Trump, even as she waited months for his condolences and wrote him that some days I don't want to live. Steve, this is just so heart-wrenching to be in the public.
Yes. That's
Period.
Exactly right.
Period.
That's exactly how I feel about it. You know, it's just so sad in every single way. Sad for the families. Sad that this is what our political debate has come to. They're chasing after this story. You know, if there was some deeper truth at the bottom of this, that it was important to get out there about something nefarious that the government or the administration or the president had done, fine. But actually, I don't think there's anyone who really believes that President Trump doesn't really take seriously the honor of the military, that he's somehow unpatriotic, he doesn't care about these
I do think that, but it was the president. It was the president who brought up these calls and who called and who didn't in presidents have passed, and whether he did or did not. But to go down, it's going to go down this road, and it's going to continue like this if he continues
Brett,
to bring it up.
I think it's terrible for every military family and Gold Star family in this country to watch and listen to any of this. It's extremely upsetting and it's offensive. The president started this on Monday. He was asked a question about the ambush in Niger and why it's taken 2 weeks for us to find out about it. Reports are that James Mattis, the Secretary of Defense, is still trying to look for answers about what happened there.
By the way.
That's really concerning. But Trump turned it into some untrue accusation about former presidents, to which a Twitter onslaught began, proving that what he said was false. He doubled down today. He might have stumbled over his words and said the wrong thing. What he did today made it a lot worse. And he has a terrible record on Gold Star families. He needs to spare this one group of people. He needs to spare
Last word.
I think you have to separate. There's two things. One, he made a terrible mistake bringing up Obama and previous presidents at the press conference. That was a dumb thing to do. As far as this stuff with Sergeant Johnson's family is concerned, we do have a member of Congress who's talked about his impeachment several months ago, just stirring this thing up. And it's not entirely clear what the president said and whether it was disrespectful or not.
The point being, the broad point being, all of it is horrific. We have to cover it because it's news, but it's bad.